the food which endures to everlasting life. What does Jesus mean by that? Well, he doesn't say right off. But to avail themselves of that food, he tells the people they must believe in him whom God has sent to them. Of course, he is referring to himself. We hear the people's response in verses 30 and 31. We read, "Therefore they said to him, 'What sign will you perform then, that we may see it and believe you? What work will you do? Our fathers ate the manna in the desert. As it is written, he gave them bread from heaven to eat.'" These people had received physically sustaining bread at the hand of Jesus. Their ancestors had been preserved by life-nourishing manna from heaven. The bread on their minds is clearly that which sustains the flesh. And just as a note, I find it interesting in light of our discussion here how those who question Christ present him a proof text to justify their longing for temporal bread. As it is written, how easy and common it is to use the scriptures to miss the point that Christ is trying to make in them. Well, anyway, what is that point? Jesus begins to enlighten them. "Most assuredly, I say to you, Moses did not give you the bread from heaven, but my Father gives you the true bread from heaven. For the bread of God is he who comes down from heaven and gives life to the world." That's John 6, verses 32 and 33. The people raise a hearty reply, "Lord, give us this bread always." But it's clear that they didn't really hear the last bit, where Jesus says, "The bread of God is he who comes down from heaven." No, these folks are thinking bread, bread. That is made obvious by Jesus' very next words to them. He says, "I am the bread of life. He who comes to me shall never hunger, and he who believes in me shall never thirst. But I said to you that you have seen me, and yet do not believe. All that the Father gives me will come to me, and the one who comes to me I will by no means cast out. For I have come down from heaven not to do my own will, but the will of him who sent me." It's as if the Lord is saying, no, we're not talking manna here. The bread that comes down from heaven is me. Now, St. John tells us that when the people heard this, they complained about him because he said, "I am the bread which came down from heaven." That's in verse 41. Their first concern is the "came down from heaven" part. They whisper among themselves, "Is not this Jesus, the son of Joseph, whose father and mother we know? How is it then that he says, 'I have come down from heaven'?" That's verse 42. Apparently their minds are so locked and settled into visions of temporal food that Jesus' curious reference to himself as bread initially takes a second seat to his claim that he is from heaven. We'll pick up the story next time as we continue on to look at the context of this passage and come to understand what verse 63 of John 6 actually is talking about. For Ancient Faith Radio, this is Matthew Gallatin.
If you'd like more information on Matthew Gallatin's ministry, visit his website at matthewgallatin.com. That's matthewgallatin.com. This has been a listener-supported presentation of Ancient Faith Radio.